We've all been there, right? The night before a huge exam. Your heart's pounding, palms are sweaty, and that little voice in your head just keeps asking, what if I fail? Well, that feeling has a name: test anxiety. And pretty much every student knows it. But what if I told you that not all of that stress is actually a bad thing? Yeah, that's the big question we're going to dig into. It sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? I mean, we're always told that anxiety is the enemy of performance. But the truth is, it's a whole lot more complicated and honestly, way more interesting than that. So let's unpack what I'm calling the anxiety paradox. We're going to look at what test anxiety really is and how it can be this destructive force on one hand, but a super powerful motivator on the other. It really all just depends on where you fall on the spectrum. Okay, so first things first, let's get a solid definition down. Test anxiety isn't just, feeling a little nervous. It's a specific kind of emotional distress. It's this deep tension that is tied directly to the fear of failing an exam and what that failure might say about us. You can really see it split into two different camps right here. On one side, you've got that harmful, high anxiety. It's debilitating, it's driven by fear, and it basically just shuts you down. But then, on the other side, you've got this helpful, moderate anxiety. This version, it acts like a positive drive. It sharpens your focus, it gets you ready, and it pushes you to actually prepare. See, it's not the enemy, it's fuel. So let's start with the side we all know and probably hate. This is the experience most of us think of when we hear test anxiety, that awful downward spiral where stress is actively working against everything you're trying to do. And high anxiety comes with all the classic signs. It's not just in your head, your body is in on it too, with the racing heart, the nausea, But the mental symptoms are just as bad. You get stuck in this constant loop of negative thoughts. And that overwhelming fear of embarrassment, well, that can easily become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what's actually going on in your brain when this happens? Well, high anxiety is basically launching an all-out assault on the very cognitive functions you need to succeed. It hijacks your attention, so you can't focus. It puts a block on your memory, so you can't pull up the stuff you studied for hours. And it just clouds your thinking, making it impossible to put a clear thought together. And this quote really gets to the absolute core of the problem. When you're in that state of high anxiety, your brain's spotlight isn't on the exam questions anymore. It's turned completely inward, focused only on your worries about failing. You're not even fighting the test at that point. You're just fighting yourself. Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. Now we get to pivot to the other side of the story, this really empowering idea of an anxiety sweet spot. This is where we learn how to make that stress work for us, not against us. And this is absolutely crucial. The goal is not to have zero anxiety. A moderate level is actually what you want. It's that little jolt of energy that says, hey, this is important. You should probably prepare. It's like the biological kickstart that gets you to actually open the book and start studying. And you can see this relationship so clearly right here on this chart. Look at the ends of the spectrum. Both low anxiety and high anxiety lead to low performance. Too little, and you just don't care enough to try. Too much, and you're totally overwhelmed. But right there in the middle, that's the sweet spot. That's where a moderate amount of anxiety leads to your best performance. That's the zone you're aiming for. So if we want to manage anxiety, first we have to understand where it's even coming from. I mean, it doesn't just show up out of nowhere, right? There are specific triggers, both inside of us and in our environment, that can push us from that helpful, moderate zone into that harmful, high anxiety territory. Research points to four main culprits. First, you've got pressure from family. Those unrealistic expectations can create a real sense of dread. Second is how teachers talk about an exam. They can really hype up the stakes. Third, and this is a big one, is just plain old poor preparation. Procrastinating gives you a very real reason to be anxious. And finally, for some people, the simple act of being judged is intensely stressful all on its own. All right, so we know what the problem is and we know where it comes from. The million-dollar question is, what can we do about it? The good news is there are real, concrete strategies that teachers, schools, and families can use. It's all about building a supportive ecosystem to help students handle this pressure. For educators, the big goal is to just lower the temperature in the room. This means creating a classroom that feels supportive, not threatening. It's about building up a student's confidence, teaching them how to study effectively, and using things like practice exams to make the real thing feel less scary. And maybe most important of all, it's about framing tests for what they are, a tool to see how you're doing, not some final judgment on your worth as a person. And families play a huge role here too. Setting realistic expectations is everything. Respecting what your kid is actually capable of. Creating a stable, trusting home environment helps reduce all that background stress. And oh, this is a big one. Avoid comparing your child to anyone else. That just breeds frustration. Instead, focus on praising their effort and celebrating their progress, no matter what the final grade is. So, as we wrap things up, let's just circle back to our main idea. The point was never to get rid of anxiety completely. That's not realistic, and you know what? It's not even a good idea. The real goal is to understand it, to see where it's coming from, and to learn how to channel its energy, to transform it from a paralyzing fear into a productive fuel for success. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. What if we just stopped treating anxiety like an enemy we have to defeat? What if, instead, we started listening to it like a signal that tells us what's important, a signal that tells us what we need to prepare for, and a signal that tells us when we might need to ask for help? Just think, how would that change the way we approach every single challenge we face?